This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
عرض التلفزيون الباكستاني صور الشبان الخمسة المعتقلين للاشتباه بارتباطهم بتنظيم القاعدة.
Pakistani TV released photos of the 5 detained young men who are suspected to be linked to Al-Qaeda. The Pakistani police said that the detainees had made contacts with armed groups through the internet. The 5 young men are all students in their 20s. They were arrested last week in Saragota City in the Punjab region after they arrived from the United States. The U.S. and Pakistani intelligence said that they wanted to go to Afghanistan to fight the American soldiers there.
Doubts have been raised about the FBI's capabilities in fighting terrorist groups that want to recruit Muslims in the U.S. after 5 Muslim students from the Washington area were declared missing and their photo was broadcast on Pakistani TV. Nihad Awad watched a videotape that one of the 5 youths left.
The content of the 11-minute-long video describes the conflict and tension between the West and the Islamic nations. It used some Quranic verses and Prophet's sayings that are misunderstood and misused by some.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation confiscated the video. The families of the 5 youths have decided to maintain a low profile. The FBI followed the 5 with help from the Pakistani security forces, which arrested all or some of them. This incident came within a series of events that began with the disappearance of a group of young men of Somali origin. It appeared later that they returned to their country and that some of them were killed. Later, Major Nidal Hassan shot 13 soldiers in Fort Hood.
You can recruit these people from anywhere.
You can recruit these people from anywhere. There are many materials on the internet, and there are groups working in different countries. Through these means, an extremist can communicate with others, such as college students. This is nothing new.
Security experts do not expect this series to end. Instead, it may create a problem for Muslims in the U.S. This time, they say in a press conference that they will start a wide-ranging awareness campaign to counter the extremist ideologies and correct the distorted Islamic beliefs.
There is an issue in the community, but the question is whether the community views it as a big issue.
A political observer of this case said to Arabiya TV that a prominent FBI official is very angry at the Bureau's failure in discovering this group of 5. He believes that the United States is subjected to increasing threats from terrorist groups. Pierre Galim, Arabiya, Washington.
We now
return to our main webpage and follow the top subject on our first page. International oil companies win 2 of the 5 Iraqi oil development contracts. Let us watch the following report for details.
This sad scene that Baghdad is familiar with has been repeating itself for the past several days. 130 people have been killed and hundreds have been wounded. Despite the continuation of violence in the capital, the security situation in the oil industry has improved. Representatives from 45 oil companies from around the world attended this meeting, bidding on contracts to extract and sell the rich oil reserves of Iraq.
This is an opportunity that's unprecedented. The quantity of reserves to be developed and marketed is unprecedented. If Iraq fulfills these contracts, then within a decade it will become the 3rd largest producer in the world after Saudi Arabia and Russia.
The security situation has been a large obstacle for oil production since the British-US invasion in 2003. The coalition forces exerted immense efforts and spent much blood to guarantee the security in the oil-producing areas. This prompted the opposition to say that the invasion was an exchange of oil for blood. Some also asked the question, are these countries favored in the oil bidding? The Iraqi government has denied this, reiterating that the contracts were based on commercial benefits only and that there is no favoritism to anyone. Despite that, the Iraqi opposition believe that the oil extraction is within the capabilities of the Iraqi people and that it should not be given to foreigners regardless of the price they're willing to pay.
Prime Minister Saad Hariri's government received an unprecedented vote of confidence, the largest since the Taif Agreement in 1990. 3 days after a great deal of debate, 122 parliament members out of 124 who attended the session decided to give Hariri's cabinet a vote of confidence. One parliament member voted no and another abstained. Despite this great level of consensus, sharp differences were revealed between members of the coalition government pertaining to Hezbollah's weapons. Ilian Shatri reports from Beirut.
The number of parliament members present are 124. The ones who voted yes are 122. One voted no confidence and one abstained.
After 3 days of debates, this is how the Lebanese parliament voted for Hariri's government. During the session, 66 parliament members took turns speaking. The 6th article of the ministerial statement, which gives the Lebanese people, army, and resistance the right to free the land, caused the most heated discussion. Hariri's government won a record number of confidence votes. He stressed that his government was formed based on national consensus, and that if it ever becomes a government of differences, he will be the first one to request a vote of confidence on it. Hariri responded to what was said about the resistance in this manner.
ما جرى التأكيد عليه في البند السادس من البيان وهو البند
What was confirmed in the 6th article is that it gives the state and its military institutions the duty to defend the homeland and national sovereignty. The Lebanese army is the one that is primarily responsible for this mission.
هو المسؤول في المقام الأول عن هذه المهمة.
Now that Hariri's government won a vote of confidence, it has a full schedule ahead of it. Political observers agree that the Prime Minister's priority will be normalizing Lebanon's relations with Syria. The timing of Hariri's scheduled visit to Syria and its agenda has created heated debates.
Hariri's visit to Syria is primarily intended for him to become familiar with the Syrian leadership. He does not know the Syrian leadership closely. Secondly, and most important, normalizing the relationship between these two countries after a period of intense relations. Above all, the visit of the Saudi king to Syria and his meeting with President Bashar al-Assad, in effect, gave a green light for Hariri to make a similar visit. Of course, the agenda of Hariri's visit to Syria includes many stalemate issues, including the Lebanese demand to draw the border of the Shabab farms, as well as the issue of the missing Lebanese.
The most sensitive topic is Hezbollah and its weapons. The statement of the ministerial cabinet said that this topic should be discussed under the leadership of President Suleiman. He already started preparing for this meeting, which is supposed to take place in the beginning of next year. It is true that there are indications that Lebanon is entering a new political era of national consensus, but it's also true that the length of this period depends on regional and international developments. Ilian Shatri, Dubai TV, Beirut. The Israeli Haaretz newspaper said that Egyptian authorities are building an iron wall, 20 to 30 meters underground, to prevent smuggling into Gaza through tunnels.
Local officials in Rafah confirmed the unusual presence of security and construction activities, but they said that these activities are aimed at pulling out trees and probably demolishing some homes along the Gaza border to establish a security zone, not to build an underground iron wall.
على الشريط الحدودي مع قطاع غزة من جهة رفح المصرية يجري نشاط أمني.
One cannot deny the presence of unusual security and construction activities along the border with Gaza in the Egyptian city of Rafah. Israel said that these activities are aimed at building an iron wall in the Egyptian territories to prevent the tunnels from reaching Gaza. Egyptian officials, including the governor of northern Sinai, abstained from commenting on the subject matter. Al Jazeera has tried to get a hold of him, but to no avail. People on the Egyptian side of Rafah acknowledged the construction of a 100-meter wide security zone, but they said the talk about the construction of an iron wall to strengthen the siege on Gaza, which is already suffering, is only propaganda.
There is a need to build a security zone that is 80 meters away from the border. It is a security zone, and the way it will be built is the business of security agencies.
The talk about building an iron wall is baseless. Yesterday I was in Rafah and I saw the area and met with the people there. The iron wall is baseless Israeli propaganda.
4 years ago, our Al Jazeera camera team was allowed to videotape these fruit trees in the Salah al-Din area along the Gaza border, but this time we were not allowed to go near them. The trees were uprooted and the homes located along the border may also be demolished if they are in the way of the security zone.
One can't put a monetary value for these trees, but for the sake of Egyptian national security and interests, the people accepted that the trees will be pulled out.
The people of Sinai, who are sympathetic with their brothers in Gaza, reiterate that clearing an area of 100 meters from the separation wall between Egypt and Gaza will not prevent the construction of new tunnels, nor will it get rid of the ones that were already built. They also say that lifting the siege on Gaza can only be done if Hamas and Fatah reach an agreement.
Tunnels will be built in Gaza so long as the people in Gaza are starving. Every day, people will think to dig tunnels. In addition, I think that the people who dig tunnels have a scientific background. Otherwise, the tunnels will not reach the intended area.
The peach and olive trees located within 100 meters from the Gaza border were pulled out, and the owners are going to get compensation. This was done to establish a new security zone. The Egyptian government and people in Rafah say that this is a new security zone, not an iron wall, as Israel claims. Hussein Abdelghani, near the border in northern Sinai.
Back here at home, under intense criticism from the settlement movement and members of the governing coalition, the government has issued a new map of priority zones in which Jewish residents of certain communities in the West Bank, as well as in the Negev and Galilee, receive various benefits, such as additional grants and tax breaks. The map was released at the same time as thousands were protesting in the first major demonstration against the construction freeze. IBA's Eli Wagalanter has that story.
While thousands of protesters were demonstrating last night against the construction freeze, just a block from the Prime Minister's residence, the Prime Minister's office was issuing a national priorities plan. The plan defines the general outline of governmental benefits and incentives in the field of education, housing, urban development, employment, and infrastructure. The plan applies to the 110,000 Jewish residents of the West Bank and also includes areas of the Galilee and Negev, totaling 26% of the national population, or some 2 million citizens. 40% are minorities, with most of those being Israeli Arabs. Among the benefits to towns in the affected areas will be the pumping of 4 billion shekels to build schools and provide jobs and infrastructure development. The cabinet will debate the proposal at this Sunday's cabinet meeting. It is not clear whether Netanyahu coordinated this move with the Obama administration. However, adding numerous settlements to the national priority map is almost certain to elicit protests from the Palestinian Authority and from the European Union. Meanwhile, last night's rally in protest of the government's temporary freeze on West Bank settlements included several lawmakers and settlement leaders who urged the Prime Minister to rescind the 10-month ban.
We came here to protest the unreasonable decision of the government to freeze all construction in Judea and Samaria. As a matter of fact, not even one Jewish home can be built now from Afula in the north to Arad in the south and from Kfar Saba in the west to the Jordan River in the east. That is completely unreasonable. It is in total contrast to Benjamin Netanyahu's pledges before the election.
The massive demonstration is the latest and strongest sign to date of the bitter resistance of Israel's right-wing camp and settler community to the new settlement policy Netanyahu declared 2 weeks ago. In recent days, settlers have been taking different actions against the decree, including preventing government enforcement personnel from entering settlements, pelting them with eggs and blocking major roads.
Not a bunch of crazy people. They're there because they did what their government told them to do. I personally think that the government's doing this because of tremendous pressure from the United States and Obama.
National Union MK Mikhail Ben-Ari addressed the crowd, saying, "This freeze is a tight noose, and we will defrost it. This freeze is a poisonous pill for the people of Israel. There'll be no freeze, not for 10 months or 2 months or 2 days or 2 minutes. This is our golden opportunity to teach Netanyahu, Obama, and Sarkozy, and the entire world, you cannot freeze the Jewish people."
In reaction to the new priority map, several Labour Party ministers have voiced strong criticism of the decision to include isolated settlements in the new preference zone map. At a meeting of Labour ministers this morning, Yitzhak Herzog, Benjamin Ben-Eliezer and Avishai Braverman said that the criteria for including settlements in the map should be based exclusively on security considerations and should therefore only include communities within the large settlement blocks. Meretz chairman Chaim Oron charged with one hand the government freezes construction, with the other it hands out tens of millions of shekels to the settlements. And Bayit Yehudi minister Daniel Hershkovitz charged that the left's criticism of the new priority map is demagoguery, adding, "There are those who will not rest until Jewish life in Judea and Samaria is completely choked." Israel has presented a report on its findings relating to IDF conduct during last winter's Operation Cast Lead in Gaza. Last night in New York, military advocate General Avichai Mandelblit presented U.S. and UN officials with findings of the probes. Mandelblit reportedly conducted 28 separate criminal investigations after reviewing 140 complaints submitted by human rights organizations and Palestinian civilians. The Army has been working to complete a full and comprehensive report aimed at countering accusations leveled at it by the Goldstone Commission. The IDF investigation is due to be completed in the coming weeks.
Mrs. Fadwa Barghouthi, if Israel would offer deportation to Palestinian political prisoners, such as your husband Marwan Barghouthi and Ahmed Sadat, would he accept this offer? What if he was deported by force? What options does he have?
This did not happen, and we have not reached this stage. None of our political prisoners, including my husband Marwan Barghouthi and others, were offered to be deported instead of imprisonment. We hope that our political prisoners are released and do not stay in the occupation's prisons. We, as Palestinian families and people, give a great deal of confidence to the Palestinian negotiators, hoping that they can reach results. They are aware of the conditions surrounding the negotiations and the conditions of political prisoners. These are difficult and bitter negotiations. These negotiations are taking place between those who were described by Israel as terrorists and murderers, but they were also described by the Palestinian people as freedom fighters, the resistance for Palestine and the people of Palestine. We have great confidence confidence in the Palestinian negotiators. God willing, they will be able to find solutions for these difficult problems and cases.
You talk about the Palestinian negotiators, and you visited your imprisoned husband, Marwan Barghouthi, a few days ago. Can you please tell us what his view is pertaining to the deadlock of the negotiations and national reconciliation?
Marwan has never given up for one single day since he was kidnapped 8 years ago. Israel has always tried to isolate him, both physically and spiritually, from the Palestinian people. Israel, however, has failed to do so despite the many long years in solitary confinement. Now he is living in prison with an isolated group, but he has always been in touch with the Palestinian people. He has always sent messages of national unity. My husband, Marwan Barghouthi, has always said that unity is the only salvation for oppressed nations. Any nation that is dispersed and divided can never reach its aspirations, despite the blood of its martyrs and all the suffering. Marwan also believes that what is taking place in Jerusalem is extremely dangerous.
أعلنت مصادر دبلوماسية في الوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية أن فريقا من مفتشي الوكالة وصل.
Diplomatic sources at the IAEA confirmed that a UN inspection team has arrived in Tehran on a routine inspection visit at the Iranian enrichment facility of Fordo. This is the agency's third inspection visit to the new uranium enrichment site. The IAEA inspected the Fordo facility at the end of last October. Diplomatically, Russia and China have voiced their opposition to a new round of sanctions against Iran over the latter's failure to comply with UN Security Council resolutions regarding its nuclear program. During a Security Council session to discuss a report filed by the chair of the UN Sanctions Committee, Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vitaly Shurkin, said that dialogue is the only way to resolve the Iranian nuclear issue. Meanwhile, China's ambassador to the UN, Jiang Yeshui, urged all sides to show restraint. On the other hand, the US, Britain, and France called for immediate action aimed at imposing tougher UN sanctions against Iran. Meanwhile, the former director of the IAEA, Mohammed al-Baradei, warned the Western countries against what he referred to as hasty decisions in dealing with Iran over its nuclear program. In an interview with the Austrian Courier newspaper, al-Baradei accused certain groups of trying to show that Iran is seeking to develop nuclear weapons, adding that the IAEA investigation has not corroborated this claim.
10 أيام مضت على مغادرة منصبه كمدير عام للوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية.
10 days have passed since he left his position as Director General of the IAEA. Mohammed al-Baradei returned today to discuss the Iranian nuclear program, which has been the most controversial issue on his agency's agenda during the past 6 years. In an interview with the Austrian Courier newspaper, al-Baradei openly accused certain Western groups of trying to show that Tehran is seeking to develop nuclear weapons. Al-Baradei further said that the IAEA investigations during the past few years have not corroborated this Western claim. He also warned the Western countries against adopting a policy of isolation and sanctions against Tehran. He suggested that in dealing with the Iranian nuclear issue, there is no reason for hasty decisions, in reference to the latest escalation between Iran and the West.
في إشارة إلى التصعيد الحاصل منذ أسابيع بين إيران والغرب.
The escalation, which has been going on for weeks between Iran and the West, may lead to regrettable consequences. The former IAEA Director General sends a clear message to the West about the faulty policy of escalation against Iran.
البرادعي اعتبر أن الحوار هو الحل الأوحد لمسألة البرنامج النووي الإيراني.
Al-Baradei also noted that the dispute between Iran and the West will be resolved through dialogue, adding that the policy of isolation and sanction will only lead to more conflicts. Observers believe that the statement issued by the former IAEA chief is a brief summary of the IAEA's finding regarding the Iranian nuclear program.
إيران النووي وتحذيرا من مغبة تجاهلها.
El Baradei's statement corroborates what the agency's investigations over the past 6 years have concluded. The facts cited by El Baradei prove that the controversy surrounding the Iranian nuclear program is a sham. Therefore, the West is being warned against any hasty decisions.
Mohammed
el-Baradei left his position at the end of last month after serving nearly 13 years as Director General of the IAEA. The past 6 years of investigations into the Iranian nuclear program have concluded nothing more than what el-Baradei stated in the Austrian newspaper. After leaving his position as the Director General of the IAEA, el-Baradei came back today to confirm that the Western countries' claims against Iran regarding its nuclear program are baseless. Tarki Shushari, Al-Alam, Vienna.
Environmental activists have clashed with Danish police as world leaders prepare for the final stage in the Copenhagen climate talks. The protesters rallied in the downtown area where corporate officials were meeting to discuss their role in the fight against global warming. The meeting was one of the side events during the 2-week-long UN conference. Police made dozens of arrests after activists started banging drums and shouting slogans outside the venue. Police say the detentions were a preventative measure to avoid disorder. Meanwhile, a large demonstration is scheduled on Saturday, which is expected to draw tens of thousands of protesters. Danish police have warned it could turn violent. Our correspondent in Copenhagen, Preeti Nalu, told us more about the climate summit and differences between developed and developing nations on how to control their carbon emissions.
Well, after an hour-long meeting with the COP presidency, the chief negotiator of G77, which also includes China and Brazil, walked out in exasperation, and in response to questions from the Danish media, this is what he stated: "Your prime minister has chosen to protect rich countries and it is not acceptable." He also added, if the Copenhagen summit ends in failure, the whole Scandinavian multilateral tradition will be jeopardized. China, which remains the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions at the moment, still insists that it is the rich industrialized nations that have caused most of the carbon emission problems and that they need to cut emissions by 40% by 2020. But in response, the US has agreed to only cut emissions by 16% so far. Well, at the end of the two-day meeting, as mentioned already, the EU nations came up with a tentative climate aid amount for the poorer countries, and this is still being considered far from the target because the total climate aid amount required is $100 billion until 2020.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.